Hi guys, I want to tell you a bit of a funny story. It's not hilarious by any means. You're not going to like roll around laughing. What I was sent was this watch. And the reason why it's funny is because I actually had put a picture of the watch, one from their website, and I said, I don't like the look of that watch, to be honest, because of this, that and the other. I'm not even going to bother looking at it. I just presumptuously said it was going to be too big, too heavy, too chunky, too this, too that. And they got in touch with me and actually said, well, if those are your thoughts, why don't you actually see one in person and see if you still feel that way? They send me a watch. How crazy is that? I'm going to do that more than that one. Anyone else? Yeah, a real life Tudor Black Bay. They're rubbish. They're junk. Don't ever buy one. So before we run down all the details about this watch, let's start with all the stats and specs. That's a good start. So straight off the bat, as soon as I got this out of the packaging, I was immediately impressed, and I regret having an opinion on it that was ultimately wrong, but I'm going to go into more detail as to why I'm wrong throughout this review. First of all, this bezel is not ceramic. I really don't think it is. It says it's ceramic, but I don't want to do a scratch test because it's a beautiful watch and it's immaculate. But it's got that texture of aluminium. It's got that matte finish, and it's not got any engraving, you know what I mean, etching, which are normally then filled with paint, is what you normally get on a ceramic. I'm hoping someone will correct me and say, no, it is actually ceramic. But to my experience, this doesn't look like ceramic. Aluminium is fine. It's got a lovely warm tone to it. And more in keeping with the Black Bay that this is paying homage to, apparently. But I'll get to that in a minute as well. I don't think it is. I think it's more of a Pelagos because of the indices and because of the size as well. Next thing I'd say, while we're talking about the bezel, is it's very light, but it doesn't feel too light. There's no play or wobble. Well, there is a little bit of bounce, as you can see, up and down. Actually, you can. What am I talking about? You can actually hear it making a noise as you touch it like that. But it's actually okay still. You can feel every single 120 of the clicks in there. The good thing is it does line up perfectly. Another thing I did notice, unfortunately, straight out of the box, it came with a little imperfection on the side here. As you can see, it looks like a little scratch or a mark. Just see the light catching it there. And I don't really like the logo. I mean, I know it's got some kind of meaning, you know, it's got a military-esque look to it. We've got a snorkel diver person and some spear fishing arrow thingies, you know, that's quite cool. But the rule of thumb with logos, if you shrink it down and it's not legible anymore, it's not a good logo. I would like a simpler, crisper logo. And the word Addiesdive, I don't know what that means. It sounds a bit too like Adidas, what is an Addies? Are they going to go diving? Who is Addy? Please tell me. Are they an incredibly famous diver and it's an awesome name that they've chosen? I don't know. But Addiesdive makes no sense to me. And I alluded to it a little bit earlier. I don't think they called it the BB58 homage, even on the Watchdives website. I don't think it is. I mean, yes, it's got the snowflake hour hand, but what else does it have that's the same as a Black Bay? It's nothing. It really is. I mean, this is, I don't know, the coinage on the bezel. It's got a different font for the Arabics in the bezel insert. It's got the Pelagos square indices, not the round ones that you get on the Black Bay. It's got a different crown design. It doesn't have that coloured ring that you get on the Black Bay in there. There's no polished edges anywhere on it. The Pelagos is all brushed or satin finish. This has got no polished elements on it either. So I'd say it's a hybrid, mostly Pelagos, maybe essence of Black Bay, I don't know. So it's a pretty good homage in that sense because it's not a direct clone or copy of any of those more famous Swiss counterparts. So I think they've done a good job. I don't like a ghost position. No, there's no haunting going on though. There's no spirits or ghouls hiding in the watch. So when you put it out to the first click, you're not suddenly going to get possessed by some evil spirit. It's just where if it had a date wheel, a visible one, you'd see the date. But they've hidden it with a nice big white dial. But as you turn it, you can hear it and feel it clicking over different dates, but they're hiding. But one more click It's got hacking, it's PT5000, but I'll talk about that more in a bit. It's quite heavy. I have sized this watch up to me. 4 links came out, 7-inch wrist on me, and this weighs 170. Bash the camera. This weighs 170 grams, which is fairly acceptable, but it is on the slightly heavier side. But the weight distribution is good on this because it doesn't have much of a taper at all, if any, on this bracelet. Lovely milled clasp, solid end links, big solid chunky bracelet, all that stuff, and it feels well balanced, and that's an important thing to know. Weight isn't just about, oh, it's too heavy for me, but if it's evenly spread, it wears very nicely. And this white dial is beautiful. I love it, but legibility with those silver hands in some light conditions is not actually that good. You can't really read the time, but that's common with any white watch with silver hands. They sort of end up being a bit too close, clashing with each other, and legibility becomes poor. Seeing as this is supposed to be a 200-meter dive watch, it's called an Addiesdive, and it has, like I say, 200 meters, screw down crown, screw case back. It's a big watch. You want to go diving for the day? Are you going to slap your wetsuit on? Oh, you can't adjust it. There's no diver's extension. So what will you do? You'll have to suck it up and see. You'll just have to struggle on, I guess. But that's enough of me moaning about the watch and criticising it, because this watch has a lot of positives, which I'm going to talk about now. First of all, the thing I actually immediately thought would be a problem being a 44mm case size watch is two things, the height and the length. I thought they would be awful. I thought this would wear terribly. How wrong was I? 12.5 height, including this domed sapphire, which I love, with AR coating underneath, which isn't too garish as well, which is another positive. The 12.5 height, 55 length, including these male end links, which immediately taper down, means that this watch wears incredibly well for a 44mm case size watch. I must remember that it's not always about the case dimension of the width, because 44 is a big watch, but 55 including there is not. It's not actually that big. Including the fact it's only 12.5 height, it wears beautifully. It's incredibly slim and easy to wear, and the weight distribution is fantastic. Tucks under the cuff if you're wearing one, and it doesn't feel too awkward because the weight distribution is really good. So that is a very good start. I was immediately impressed with that and had to eat humble pie. Now, something I do love, one of my favourite things, is brushing. And this watch has brushing that excels. It's very smooth. The whole watch is brushed, so they better do a bloody good job, otherwise it's going to be ghastly. But even the bracelet, the clasp underneath here, this part here is all really smooth. Very lovely case back. There's a gorgeous softness to a brushed case. Polishing obviously can help break up a piece. If there are polished chamfers here, which would have been nice maybe. But you know what brings it back again though, is having an entirely brushed watch gives it that really toolish look, and it just looks really more rugged. No bling at all on here. It's just really nice. And the same thing with having an aluminium insert, which I think this is. No shininess. It brings that down again. Stops it being at all too flashy or shiny, which is good. Sometimes that's just what you want from a good tool watch. And even though I alluded to in the sort of moans bit earlier on, this bezel feel, even though it does feel cheap and a bit tinny, I also quite like it. This feels really good, and it's very light. And I personally like that. Some people like a stiff bezel. I'm really happy that it lines up perfectly. It's got to line up, otherwise I'm just almost rage quit and throw it in the bin. PT5000, I've had enough now to overall say that they are fine. I've not had problems. They generally run really well. I haven't had an inaccurate one yet, and it's running well in here. Now, slight negative, but overall a very big positive, is slightly patchy application of the loom, only slight, but it's a BGW9 loom. The glow on this is awesome. You can see in the time lapse and the shots I've done. I love BGW9. The blue works gorgeously with the white dial and the dark blue bezel insert. Now, a surprise at this price point is you don't always get a milled clasp, but here we have one, and it's perfectly serviceable, very functional, no slop or play on ghastliness. This is clasps I've seen before. I think I've even got identical to this. They cost a few pounds or dollars on AliExpress, and it's because we banged on about it for years, I reckon, that they've actually listened and gone, you know what, that's what they want, that's what I can have. It's only a few pounds more. Why don't they have it? It just adds an extra dimension of class and value for money to any watch, really. So I think this is a great clasp. It's a huge positive to say that about one of these kind of watches, because traditionally they're actually quite poor, but this is fantastic. And I'll carry on with the bracelet. Not a huge amount of slack. Really easy to size up. Push pins. Took 4 links out, which are really easy. The pins didn't get stuck, or they weren't bent, or sometimes they snap. It was really good. It's all brushed, all surfaces. Again, like I said earlier, neatly done. No imperfections anywhere really on the bracelet at all. Really good. And you get 3 micro adjusts. which is perfectly acceptable. As you see, I've moved to the second one, so I get perfect fitment for me. Really pleased with that bracelet. I'm surprised again, normally they're junk, but not in this case. And I do like this dome sapphire. It's really cool. I do like it. It's not sticking up too high, but it helps play with the light and distort the edges of the dial a bit. And lastly, I just like the styling. I think it's a pretty watch for a big watch. Lovely big open space on the dial. I'm glad they didn't knock the symmetry out with anything, even though the logo's a bit weird and silly and makes no sense. It's just straightforward. Addiesdive, automatic 200, all running in a line that way, nothing else to interfere with it. Even better with a different colourway, obviously. Like I said earlier, you've got the silver clashing with the white sometimes, but overall, really nice. Now, I'm being ultra critical, I would have liked a slightly larger crown, but this does unscrew nicely. It's got a nice little pop, very easy to feel the pointless date position. Pops out really nice for the time adjust. Very minimal wobble, catches immediately when you unscrew it back in, really good. Some of you may say, well, they've sent you a free watch. They may have just picked the best out of the bunch. And that is obviously possible. But if they were being that critical, they wouldn't have sent me one with a scratch on it already that was straight out of the box. So maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I need to eat humble pie. Or if I had said, I'll eat my hat if it's actually good, I'll be chewing on my hat right now. Because this is an example of don't jump the gun on an opinion of something, which I shouldn't have done, about a watch. I know they sent it to me for free, and I'm going to be a little bit biased because I'm like, oh, they sent me a watch for free. I'm still honest. You guys know me. For $200, did my research. What are you going to get for that kind of money in this kind of segment in the market? And I think it competes really well. If you like the styling and the different colorways you can get, I think you'll be quite satisfied. I'm really sorry. Go and buy one. So anyway, if you bought into my review and you like me, you like the channel, why don't you click on the old subscribe button? Help support the channel, like, definitely read your comments. I like to engage with you as much as I can. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and if not, thanks for watching. Bye for now.